welcome back, everyone. Appreciate y'all all being with us again here today. Um, Today our topic is title changes. And once again, I'm gonna cover my camera so you don't have to stare at my bald head while I'm talking. But before we get started, I did want to make an announcement. Yesterday we named a new director of our career counseling center. And so that will be happy to announce that it will be DeJuan Carter is the new director of career counseling. DeJuan started with us, 15, 18 years ago in recruitment selection and has had various roles here in other agencies, but he will be transitioning from class comp to be the director of the career counseling center. So just wanted to let everybody know, since we had everybody on the call, that he will be the new point of contact and over all the recruitment and selection activities moving forward. So just want to give you all a heads up on that. All right. So, all right, we can congratulate DeJuan later. I got to share my screen. I don't need pop-ups. All right. So, you're still seeing my bald head. All right. So, last week we did salary determination. This week we're doing title changes. Next week we will be handling transfers. So, promotions, demotions, lateral transfers. We're going to take the week off for Thanksgiving, and then we will be back doing in-range adjustments, everything else to include additional comps and retroactive pay and all that kind of fun stuff. And then the last one we'll have, I know we're doing questions and answers after each session, but we'll do a full question and answer session after it's all over at the end of December. So, title changes. I should mention this too. I anticipate this being a lot shorter than the last one, depending on questions, but at least my part will be a lot shorter in this regard about this topic. So, title changes. Most of y'all are familiar with the old terms, reallocation and reclassification, but these are now called title changes. Once again, they can be upward, downward, or lateral. Under the old plan, there were not very many laterals because we had so many different starting salaries. Right now, we only have about 40 different starting salaries. And so the odds of it being lateral are a lot higher now, but they can be any one of these three. They can be processed if they're cost neutral. Cost neutral in this regard means that it's not going to cause you to spend more in your payroll than you're authorized by the legislature. Total maximum salary is up to 15%. I know some agencies do 8%, some do 10, some do the full 15, but it's anywhere up to 15%. And exceptions to this, much like with promotions and things like that, is if you're going from the general pay plan to another pay plan, or if you're going in the medical pay plan and getting an advanced certification. So you have a CNA who gets their LPN license, they're eligible for more than 15%. Same if an LPN would get their RN license, or an RN gets their nurse practitioner, we're not going to cap them at the 15%. All right. Title change considerations. So all field title changes from the worker level to the supervisory level require our board's approval. And then all other title changes shall be approved by the state personnel director or his designee. I will let you know, I'll tell you next Friday when we meet, but our board will be reviewing a revision to bullet point number 1, a policy revision next Thursday at the board meeting. We're going to, if y'all remember the old plan, there was a salary threshold for title reallocations that required board approval. We're going to put a salary threshold back in there. So below that level will not require board approval and above that level will. But I'll give you more details on that next week. But that is going to our board next week to allow you a little more flexibility in doing title changes to the supervisory level below a certain salary threshold. things to consider. So we've been harping on this since even before go live, but our vision with this is that title changes would be a lot less frequent, and in-range adjustments would be a lot more frequent. So a title change is when we're moving somebody from one classification with greater content, responsibility, accountability, that's typically within the same job family. So we're out of the process of just changing somebody from an accountant 1 to an accountant 2 because they meet the minimum qualifications to be a 2, or because they breathed on their 366 day, and so now they're a 2. We're doing this when there's literally a change in what they're doing. They have more responsibility, they have more independence, they are doing something different, which warrants a title change. I see a lot of requests that come in for title changes to promote somebody into it. Well, that's silly. Just now we're changing a title of a vacant pen to promote somebody into it instead of just changing the title of the person that you're going to promote anyways. So just retitle the employee. Comments and justification should include details about why you're changing the title. If it's a filled position going from a 1 to a 2, they're now performing at the journey level. They're independent now. They have more responsibility. They're going from the mastery level. They're doing mastery level work. They're head and shoulders above their peers and deserve to be at the 3rd level or that mastery level and not the journey level anymore. All right, more things to consider. Again, I've mentioned this before too, but if you have to do 10 title changes and they're all within the same job family, and I still get a lot of these where we take 5 positions from a 2 to a 3, and then 5 positions from a 1 to a 2, rather than just doing the 5 1s to 3s and leaving the 5 2s alone. So just consider that and try to be efficient with that, because that's more processing for you and it's more processing for us if we had to do 10 instead of 5. Like I said, for field title changes at the worker level within the same family, we don't need a huge amount of justification. Just tell us briefly how the employee is performing at the next level of work. What makes them now warrant to be in the 2nd level or the 3rd level? What are they doing different? If the job family and especially the occupational group is changing, we want obviously more information as to what the position is going to be responsible for. If it's vacant, tell us why the job class doesn't fit anymore. How will be utilized in the new role? Where's it going to be on the chart? What's it going to be doing? I really like if you tell me who's been doing that work before, if anybody's been doing it, things like that. Just give us some information. If it's filled, we went through the PDQ process about a year ago, 18 months ago. So if it's a field title change where we're changing somebody's occupational group or job family, how long have they been doing this? Because while I know we didn't get all 25,000 people right on the first swipe, we're getting a lot of title changes where we're being told this employee is doing something completely different than what they put on their PDQ 18 months ago. So how long have they been doing this type of work? If they told me they were doing clerical work and now you're telling me they're doing payroll, how long have they been doing payroll? Because they just told me they were doing clerical work. Their supervisor said they're doing clerical work. HR said they're doing clerical work, and now they're doing payroll work. So just give us an idea of what's changed, when it changed, why it changed, that kind of thing. And so I will tell you, that's all I have, but I do want to soapbox for just a minute. Just a couple of things that I'm seeing in the comments when these actions come in. We've got to stop title changing just because we've always retitled them after a year. That's silly. That's the old plan. We had to retitle them to give them more money. If we're not going to give them more money, or we're going to give them a little bit of money, just give them an in-range adjustment. Also, there's a lot of agencies who are retitling people with little or in some cases no salary increase. And I'll tell you, I've met with several agencies about this, but you're doing these employees a disservice for many reasons. Employees talk when they find out that another agency or even another division is giving 8, 10, 15% for a title change, and you gave them $500 or $1,000, they're going to complain about it, and they're going to want to know why they didn't get that money. If you want to give them less than 10%, we've said all along, just give them an in-range adjustment. You don't have to change their title to give them more money. If they've already maxed that out and they've already gotten their 10% for this year. So now we're saying that they're now worth, 25% more, 20, 25, 30% more money than they were making 4 months ago. So just keep that in mind. Many agencies have reached out to us about salaries for specific families, where if they had just given the 15% on title changes that they've been doing, they would be in a much better position to, with the 10% in range adjustment, to pay them what they feel like they need to be paying. And lastly, on my soapbox, I'm getting a lot of requests for employees who have had no salary in range adjustments for FY 2022. They receive, 15, 20, 25, 30% just to get to minimum on 7/1. They've had nothing done to them this FY in terms of in range adjustment. They're still sitting at minimum for their job class. And now, instead of giving them an in range adjustment, you're asking to move them to the next level, which is another 20 to 25% salary increase. I apologize for that. So just title changes, we're only changing their title if they're going to be doing something completely different or doing something different. Give them an in-range adjustment if we can go that route, because we don't need to just change their title and not give them the salary benefit as a result. I hope that makes sense. All right, like I said, it was going to be a lot shorter this time. I'm going to open it up for questions so that I can figure out how to stop presenting. All right, so questions. Miss Harris has her hand up.
So I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
With MDOC, if we have someone who meets the requirements for a CO2 and is a CO1, we're moving them up. Are we not to use another pen, or do we keep them in the same pen and just change the title to the pen?
I mean, I would just change the title in the pen they're in.
Okay.
Well, that comment was because there are a lot of agencies who are changing a vacant correctional officer 1 to a 2. And then that has to come to us for review and approval. And your analyst has to approve it, then I have to approve it. And then they're just promoting that person into that vacant pen when they could have just done one action, change the title for that person. So that's all I was saying, was just, you don't have to change a vacancy to transfer them, just change their current pen.
Okay.
No, you're doing it right.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Rhino, there was a text question.
Message in the chat, okay. How much information do we need to provide for old title vacant pens in the new system? That's a great question. Thank you, Robin. So what I've told my staff is for those jobs that, in Robin's case, she's the library commission. If she's asking to take an old librarian to a new librarian, I don't need any justification at all. If you're taking an old nurse to a new nurse, an old admin assistant to a new admin assistant, if it makes sense, I don't need much of anything. If it's something completely different, or you're picking that lovely program specialist, program management and support family that's very generic and doesn't tell me anything, then we're going to need more justification. But if it makes sense, there's a 1-to-1 correlation, then we don't need a huge amount we don't need very, very much justification at all. If it makes sense, if it's a social worker to a social worker, or an accountant to an accountant, or even some IT pen. If it's a programmer going to an applications developer, that's a 1-to-1 correlation. So we don't need justification for that. It's when you get into the generic job classes. If we don't know, if it's a projects officer going to a program specialist, I'm going to want to know what they're doing. if it's an accountant to an accountant, that makes sense to me. Anybody else? So an example would be, we had a branch director, and we're taking it to a library lead as a supervisor of the same department it was in. So, I mean, again, I would just put in the comments something like that. This was our former library supervisor, and we're making it a library team lead. And I can go to the chart and see that it's a branch director that's been vacant for 10 months that supervises librarians. We shouldn't need a whole lot of justification in that regard. Because as long as it makes sense to us, I mean, if you were asking for an engineer, I might ask a question. It's a library commission, but so, I mean, a library commission asking for a library lead for an old supervisory job class, that we shouldn't need too much information from you guys.
What?
Title changes for recruitment. So what, can you clarify that, Denicia?
We're having agencies doing title changes for a whole series of positions for recruitment. And then turning around, just as you said before, doing the level 2 to the level 1, and then the level 3 to the 1 as well. And then we're having to redo those title changes once they select the candidates.
Yeah, so we've had a couple of instances of that from a couple of agencies where you post a 1 and then you get your list and realize that your people qualify to be a 2 on your list. You posted a 1, you posted the salary range for a 1. We're gonna hold you to that 1. That's just because, again, it goes back to the salary determination and posting a salary that wanted to pay more than what you posted. How many people didn't apply for a 1 that would have applied for a 2? Because when you change them to a 2, you're gonna want to pay them like your other 2. So you're gonna pay them more than what you posted. And so just keep that in mind when you're posting a job, that you need to post what title you actually want to fill it at. And if you're looking for a 1 or a 2, post 2 jobs. And there are some states that we're exploring, what's next for recruitment. And there are some states who post accountant 1, 2, and 3 out there, and the same job posting. People can apply for all 3, and they post, this is what we're looking for. And if you have this level of experience, we're paying X, Y, and Z, depending on your experience. So we're exploring some of those options with our current system and the limitations it has. But for right now, if you post a 1, we're going to make you hire at the 1 level. Just keep that in mind. If you only have 1 vacant position, posting more than 1 is not an option. That's true. That's true. But if you wanted 2, looking for 2 experience, post a 2. And if you're looking for entry level experience, post a 1. I mean, I would think somebody I get that for a very small agency, you might not have 2 vacancies to post, but we're still going to hold you to whatever you post. I think that's ultimately what I'm saying.
We got more vacancies here than I have.
Hey, Ryan, this is Jessica Dykes at Rehab Services. When we're posting like a 1 or a 2 for something, it's in a specific county that we're looking for, and we might not have. I mean, you can't just post a 2 and it'd be anywhere because you need it for a specific county. So that creates a problem if we can't just say,
Right,
okay.
and you know, y'all are a specific example that we've had numerous conversations about. And we can continue to have that conversation. But excuse me. Right now, you know, there are options available to you other than posting a 1 and hiring a 2. And I think, you know, I'm happy to meet with y'all again about that. I know y'all have had some changes, but there are options available to you guys to not post a 1 and hire a 2. So y'all's is a very specific example that I think we could hash out outside of this meeting.
Okay, thank you. We would like to get together and discuss it.
Sure. Anybody else? All right, guys. Well, I'm not going to keep y'all on a Thursday of a 3-day weekend. So it's 10:27. We knocked this out in 20 minutes. So we'll be in touch next week about transfers and promotions and demotions. So thank y'all for being here, and we'll be in touch.